Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss sampling technique. In order to know about sampling technique, it is important to understand what is population. Population refers to the entire group of people or things which are going to be the part of your study. So, for example, if you are taking uh, 25 or 30 students from BS English program, and you are analyzing their proficiency in English language, that is your population. So the whole uh, group, the entire group of people or things which are going to be the part of your study, that is your population. In relevance to that, what is an element? An element element is any one person or one member or one thing in that population which you have taken for the study. So for example, if a person, if there are like for example all the students of BS English, you want to conduct a study in which you want to know the proficiency level of let's suppose spoken English of the students. So spoken abilities of the students and their mistakes. The population that you're taking is BS English students, and in that BS English students, each one of the student is the element in the population. Population frame. Population frame is the listing of all the elements in the population from which the sample is drawn. So for example, if let us take the example of for example, if you're taking if you let's take the same example. If you're taking BS English students, and you ask me for the list of all the students of the department, this is actually a population frame in which every element of the population that from which you want to take the take the sample, which is going to be the part of your study. You are actually that list, that complete list is going to be the population frame from which you're going to take those 25 or 30 students, like that, uh, from that a population frame. Sample is a subset of the population. It comprises some members selected from it. So what is sample? If we've already talked about population, you take a population from the population frame, and from that population frame, the selected members of the study um, is called sample, from which you have actually collected the data. And uh, for example, like I give you the example of BSH. So you have taken all the list of the students, which is population frame. Then you take only let's suppose only 20 students or 25 students from whom you have taken the data. That is your sample. This is your study sample, right? So study sample is a subgroup or a subset of the population which actually represents the whole population. So if you take 25 students, still those 25 students are going to be the representative of BS English students. They all are BS English students, all those 25 students. So sample is actually, as the word suggests, it's just the representation of what of the population, and element is uh, each member in that sample or even in that population. Okay. Subject is Subject is the single member of the sample. So for example, among those 25 students that you have taken, when you are writing your analysis portion, and in analysis you are trying to say something that one uh, person said something, so you do not say one person, you say that a subject said. So that subject is actually the part of your study, the part of your population. Sometimes you may also say respondent as well, like the one who has given you the answer. If you are conducting interview, it varies from research to research. You can use, respondents as well, but subject is that one specific term that we use for that one person or single member in of the sample. Okay, sampling. What is sampling? Sampling is the process of selecting a sufficient number of elements from the population so that a study of the sample and an understanding of its properties or characteristics would make it possible for us to generalize such properties or characteristics of the population element. When you take students, when you sampling is actually that process through which you take um, people or elements from the population. You collect that sample. This whole process of collection, selection, this all is sampling. This all is called a sampling process, and it's called sampling. Now, there are different types of sampling that we can use, and based on your study, nature of your study, sampling is different sampling methods or techniques are used. So it as we've already discussed, that population is actually the sample is actually the representation of the population that you're taking. So for example, if you're trying to study students of let's suppose students of engineering, and you're taking sample from BS English students, then this sample is incorrect. And this why the sample is incorrect? Because it is not the correct process. It is not you're conducting your study on engineering students, with engineering students, and you are collecting data from BS English students. It's incorrect because they do not represent the characteristics and properties of engineering students. That is why it is incorrect. So you always have to go for the correct sampling and for the correct sample. For that, we need to understand different types of sampling. There are two major types of sampling. One is probability and one is non-probability sampling, which are further divided into different types. These two major types of sampling, as the name suggests, probability or non-probability. Probability means that each these sampling in the elements in the population have some chance of being selected as a sample subject. So uh, there is major chances that each of the member of the sample, it can sorry population can be selected as a sample of the study, because there is this generalizability factor in that. Means you can, whatever data which you collect, or whatever conclusion that you base on this sample, can be generalized. However, if it is if the study you're conducting, and there is this question, there's no concern regarding the generalizability, or the concern is regarding the time frame, or other things related to, or maybe the purpose of the study is different, then you go for non-probability sampling, where the elements do not have a predetermined chance of being selected as a subject. Means you're not aware that they are already going, they have the chance of being selected in the study. This is a probability sampling is further divided into different sampling, which we are going to discuss. The first type is unrestricted or simple random sampling. So, in this type of sampling, as the name suggests, unrestricted or simple random sampling, as the word suggests, that you randomly can select sample from the population. So, for example, if there are 1,000 students in a university, and you have if you want to select any one of them for your study, because you just want to know that how the students of university are going to um, uh, or how they are performing. So um, in that case, you're taking you can take any one of them, because all of them are university students. Or for example, if you want to conduct your study regarding males, and there is no age or time or any other factor involved in that, you can randomly select any student of any field, maybe from schools, colleges, but they are supposed to be just males. So, or maybe you're studying regarding human beings, some study regarding human beings, how human um, l- use language in different situations. And you are randomly selecting, because everyone is which is the part of your study, which who's going to be the part of your study, that is all the elements in the population have equal chances of being the part of your sample. So then you can go for a simple random sampling. Then we have another type, which is called as restricted or complex probability sampling. This type of sampling is something which is something opposite to that of the um, simple random sampling design, in which we have some ways of um, complex ways of probability sampling that we use, and there are different types of it, which would make it clear what is a complex probability sampling, because restricted or complex probability sampling can be done through all these methods, which is systematic sampling, or stratified random sampling, or cluster sampling, or area sampling, and double sampling. Uh, we're going to discuss the first one, which is a systematic sampling. The systematic sampling design involves drawing every nth element in the population, starting with a randomly chosen element from 1 and n. So, if you remember, we talked about population frame. So let's suppose you're taking all the students of university, and you're conducting your study in city university. Now, rather than going for random, you go for the restricted one. And in the restricted one, you are going for systematic sampling. So systematic sampling would be that you're going to place the list of the students or their roll numbers, and you'll say that after every uh, 30th student, whoever comes in the list, the 30th student, I'm going to um, uh, involve that student or take that student for my research, means as a sample. So what you do is that you take 30, the name which comes on 30th, and then the name which comes on 60th, means uh, after every 30 names, a 30th name which comes is going to be the part of your study. So this is how you do systematic sampling. It can be any number. It is not necessary that it is always going to be 30th. It can be 10th, or it can be 5th. For example, I'm conducting a study in your class, and I want to go for systematic sampling. And in systematic sampling, I say that every fifth student in this class is going to be the part of my study. So this is systematic sampling. Then we have stratified random sampling. So in stratified random sampling, uh, the sample helps, as we already know, that the sample helps to estimate population parameters, and that is, there may be identifiable subgroups of the element. So let me give you example that, for example, someone is taking doing or conducting study in university. We already know that there are groups in the university, and now which are those groups? There are already subgroups made of the elements, and those subgroups are, let's suppose, departments are, students are already divided into departments, then students are um, further divided into um, their semesters, even batches. So there are already subgroups identified and subgroups are already made, right? So the researcher is going to um, conduct or is going to select the sample or elements from each group. They are going to collect the data from each group in order to um, conclude their result on the basis of different departments, so that later on they can say that in different departments what were the level of the understanding of the or maybe the spoken abilities of the students. So this is how you're going to uh, conduct this stratified random sampling. Means you'd form groups, and then or groups are already made, and then you're going to select people from those groups. Now the question is that once you take data from the groups, but then within that groups you can go for which type of sampling are you going to do. There are two ways in which you can do it. You can either go for a simple random sampling, that is randomly select some students from engineering, some students from other group, some students from other group. Or you can do within stratified random sampling, you can go for this systematic sampling. And that systematic sampling is that every third student or every fourth student or every 10th student you're going to take. So these are the two methods in which you can further uh, select the sample. Then we have cluster sampling. In Okay, in cluster sampling, uh, like you already have, you make clusters as the name suggests. Like you already have clusters, so it is something which is not like the stratified sampling. It's like you you have, like for example, you have already male and female students in the group. There is heterogeneity in among the group members. Means the group members are already diversified. Means they are different from one another. It means they are not from the same uh, they don't have same properties that you are trying to study. So what you do is like you first take a sample, and you do simple random sampling or stratified random sampling on the basis of your own choice, and then you choose members from the means whatever sampling you have already done. So I'll give you the example of um, let's suppose I'll give you the example of simple random sampling. So if you have done simple random sampling already within that group, then you further select um, uh, members uh, from that group. Once you have already done sampling in that specific group, you further do your selection. It can be based on stratified, or it can be based on a simple random sampling, or maybe the nth number that you're systematic sampling that you're doing. So it means that you first make groups. I mean, you already have groups. You select um, you already choose your sample. You have already made groups of those samples, and then within those sample, then you further do sampling, that is cluster sampling. Okay. Hmm. As the name suggests, area sampling. So in area sampling, the sample is collected, or the sample is selected based on the location of uh, mm, the participant or the population or the elements in the study. So if let's suppose you are conducting study in sociolinguistics, and you want to study mm, and you want to study the difference in the dialects. So that, in that case, you'll go for area sampling, because you know that it's based on areas or locality that it varies, or there can be other studies associated with that as well. But the sample which is selected is actually based on the area sampling, and which is actually the probability sampling, because they belong to the same area, and that is why the it like it's based on area that you select people for the study. Then we have double sampling. Double sampling is, as the name suggests, is a sampling where you first take a sample and you use it in a study to collect some kind of information that you um, wanted to collect, and then the sample is used for the same, for other purpose once again. Means that, let's suppose I have taken 25 students from BS English as my sample of the study, and then I, first I use them for knowing whether what is the proficiency of their spoken English, and then uh, I use the same 25 students for the for the for the for knowing what are their mistakes. So these are the two different things for which I have used. So this is double sampling, means I have used one the same group for the same study, and then another group for um, uh, the the same group for another study as well. This is called double sampling. Then we come towards non-probability sampling. So non-probability sampling is further divided into many types, and one of the types is convenience sampling. Okay, as the name suggests, that in convenience sampling, um, all the all the elements from the population which are selected for the study are based on the or based on conveniently available, means that they are conveniently available to the researcher, and that is why they have chosen chosen them for the study. So there is no such thing, as it was in the previous types. It is a convenience sampling. If maybe you can take your friends for the study, if they are if they fulfill the criterias of your study, so you can go ahead and take your friends as your study, or maybe your class fellows as your study, mm, um, because they are conveniently available to you, and that is why you have selected them for the study for the study. Okay. Then we have purposive sampling. This word suggests that it is associated with the purpose. Um, Purposive sampling uh, is based on the people or the subjects who can give you uh, who can who can provide you information which is associated with your research, and that is the purpose of your research. Means that whatever information is required to complete your purpose of your research, you take that specific target group or specific people from that um, through this purposive sampling, and this is your method of sampling. This is divided into Purposive sampling is divided into judgment sampling and quota sampling. uh, Judgment sampling uh, is um, when the choice of the subjects who are most advantageously placed in or in the best position to provide the information required. So, for example, if you're taking information regarding the spoken English of the students, like, is there any change in the spoken um, uh, uh, like spoken ability of the students who have uh, uh, gone through these academies or courses, then obviously judgment sampling or purposive sampling, judgment sampling would be done, because only people who are done with these courses are the best ones to answer this question to you. And this is how you'll complete your purpose of your research. You can also go for quota sampling as well. Now so as the name suggests, that in quota sampling, which is another type of purposive sampling, um, there is uh, you know uh, subgroups made, and in each group you can choose the um, uh, the sample from those uh, people. Now, when you are choosing sample from those quotas, let's suppose in same group, male and female have different views. So, for example, if you are taking data from male and both from the female, they are different, and you make quotas within one group, and then you take data from or maybe multiple groups, and you take data from them. But the thing is that you cannot generalize the data over all the population. Means that the way it is done in the probability sampling, it is not in the non-probability sampling. So that is why we call it as quota sampling, because you cannot generalize the data in that. And this is for the sampling designs. But remember that any sample that you're selecting, you need to have you need to select it on the basis of your own study. Whatever you're studying, on the basis of that, you're going to select your sample. Thank you.